Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Witch on the Holy Night. You know, stuff's about to pop off when you get to a chapter that is the title of what you are looking at. We're on Witch on the Holy Night 1, which, the last chapter that had like 1, 2, and 3 was the amusement park chapter, which kind of was the best. So let's strap the frick in and get going. All we know is that Aoko is not having a great time. Aoko had not hung up, but the line remained silent. Alice set down the receiver, quickly put on her mantle, and made for the entrance, moving her injured body by sheer willpower alone. Along the way, she paused, and then turned to Sojiro and looked directly at him.
青子に何かあったんだな。
Alice hesitated for a moment before pushing aside her anxiety and grabbing his hand.
しずきくん、一緒に来て。
Good.
待ってくれ。一緒にってどこに？
間教会まで。青子の方は営利神父にお願いするしかないから。
Oh, we're gonna be getting the father in.
間教会って病院の横にある。
This is a moment where they basically have to say, I know the church doesn't like us, but we may need a bit of help. For the sake of everyone, really.
知っているのなら問題ないわね。説明する手間も省けたわ。
Yeah, because we did the side chapter that showed us going there. So he knows. Alice left the mansion and made her way down the tree-lined path. She was clearly determined, but the look in her eyes betrayed her pain.
アリス、連絡をするなら電話は？
Sojiro asked Alice, whose grip on his hand was light but unyielding.
教会の人にならもう知らせた。もしかして病院のことを言っているなら、それこそ無駄よ。ハイヤーなんて言うけど、空を飛ぶわけでもないし。今、
Alice had thought of everything. She turned to the mansion and lightly snapped her fingers. In response, a window opened and countless starlings took flight.
1番隊は索敵。2番隊と3番隊は現場に向かって応急処置を。在庫切れになってもいいわ。
God, it's kind of nice to truly actually see familiars at work.
まだ生きているなら、青子の心臓を止めないで。
I'd love to see a bird try and give CPR. That would be interesting. Alice commanded the birds
し
firmly.
ずきくんは裏庭から青子の自転車を持ってきて。
Sojiro let slip his discomfort at the thought of that thing. The custom-made red bicycle. When he was cleaning the incinerator, Aoko had verbally assaulted him for nearly scratching it.
いいけど、どうするつもりなんだ、アリスは。
ここにいるより教会にいた方がしずきくんは安全よ。それに私も急がないといけない。
I hope the house doesn't blow up by the end of this.
二人乗りできる。
Like the house. He had seen others ride tandem and was confident he could do it. Only, it was the bicycle that concerned him. Its frame was so light, and Sojiro was unsure it could support both their weights.
ん？二人乗りってことは、アリスが後ろに乗るのか？
できないならいいわ。
Alice turned away as if to snub him, then began walking. Unfortunately for Sojiro, he was now on her bad side.
いや、そういう意味じゃないんだ。アリスとはイメージが合わなかったから。
It does go against her image. Ignoring his pleas, she continued briskly towards the woods. There was no way she was going to ride the bike now. Sensing her stubborn streak, he desperately called out to her.
待った、今のはこっちが悪かった。すぐに持ってくるから、怒るのはツケにしておいてくれ。
Alice stopped. As soon as he saw her stop, he hurried to the rear courtyard, grabbed the key from where it was hanging, and used it to unlock Aoko's bicycle. By the time Sojiro brought it back to the front of the mansion, Alice was continuing toward the
ア
forest.
リスの性格、なんとなくつかめてきたな。
Muttering to himself, he straddled the bike. He rested his foot on a pedal. It felt light, yet sturdy. Confident the bike could support his weight and Alice's, he began pedaling.
アリス、
She turned as he called out to her, before shooting him a piercing glare.
行こう。後ろの荷台に乗ってくれ。でもクッションがないから痛いと思う。辛かったら言ってくれ。止めるから。
私は大丈夫よ。しずきくんが嫌じゃなければの話だけど。
He had hit the nail on the head. Alice definitely held a grudge over the smallest things.
そういうことなら問題ないよ。アリスが後ろにいてくれるのは嬉しい。それで、行き先は間境界でいいんだな。
Please tell me we actually get a CG of them riding together, please. Unabashed and undaunted, he plowed on. His tone seemed to ease Alice's mood. She nodded calmly and took a seat on the luggage rack above the rear tire.
手を回すけど、
No!
私が触れても平気。
Show me actual art of this. I need to see it.
ん？大丈夫だよ。体力があるのはさっき証明しただろ。
I am happy that despite being, like, my man is not totally asexual. We know that. He actually does enjoy, you know, women. But he's also not like, oh, that's embarrassing. A woman touching me. Ooh, like, that's so annoying. I mean, it's funny maybe once or twice, but if that becomes a whole thing, it's annoying. My man is like, no, there's serious matters. Alice silently wrapped her arms around Sojiro. Once she held on tightly enough, he gripped the handlebars.
よかった。
He said quietly.
何が良かったの？
Sojiro turned to her, an ambiguous expression on his face, and then began pedaling vigorously. He let go of the brakes. That's not the right word. That's not the right one. And the bicycle hurtled down to Shiro Inazuka's steep incline. Surprised by the sudden speed, Alice gasped and clutched Sojiro tighter. She went to protest, but stopped when she saw the serious expression on Sojiro's face. Instead, she decided to tighten her grip. Under the night sky, a young girl had put her faith in a young boy. Oh, yo, the snow, the Archer lights up there. Faster than a roller coaster, the bike hurtled toward Misaki Town Station. Around this station, there was no sight of cars or people. While the town slept under its snowy blanket, two people were racing like the wind. The boy spoke.
本当によかった。二人乗りが思ったより簡単で。
Yeah, shame about what it's like to bike in the snow, though. But he was alone in his relief. It was their first bicycle ride together, and they spent it speeding down an empty highway. The boy's words were lost to the howling wind, unfortunately. Yeah, you're not going to hear that. You ever tried talking to people on a bike? In spite of the late hour, there were still lights on in the church. I mean, God never sleeps, you know what I'm saying? Originally, the only light on at this time of night came from the entrance to the sleepless hospital, ever vigilant and ready to receive patients. However, this was a quiet town with little nightlife. The hospital saw perhaps one emergency patient per night, however, and it was not equipped to handle tonight's sole patient. It was a little before 1 o'clock in the morning. Leaving the bicycle outside, the two headed into the church. With its snow-covered roof, the church looked like it was wearing a white hat that lit up the darkness. In the entrance stood a tall shadow. You're new? Okay. You got the frickin' Sephiroth hair. The man's voice was placid. Dressed in a long coat, he had been waiting for Alice.
エイリ神父、青子は？
ユイカが見ています。私が駆けつけた時には手遅れでした。
Hold the phone. Hold the phone. Listen, if I didn't hear this dude's voice, this is the agent from Monster Musume.
Look, a bra with a tie. Now that's a sexy combination.
Not really.
What? Come on.
This is the agent who puts all the monsters in the main guy's house. You look identical. The only thing is she's a woman. But dang, okay. I mean, I guess it makes sense. I'd be like, man, I wonder if, if I was playing the original where there's no voices, I might go like, is that a woman? And then I would think for a second and go, oh wait, a Catholic priest, father, probably isn't a woman. Just throwing it out there. Though in some denominations I hear they are starting to allow woman priests, but I don't know if they... You know what? I'm curious. Do they call a woman priest father? Do you call a woman priest father? Legitimately curious. Father is an informal title. How do you address a woman priest? Pastor. Okay. Pastor blank. Okay, that makes sense. Okay. Just something I was curious about.
青崎の家に伝令を願いたいのですが。
青子はそれを望まないわ。
Yeah.
それに、あちらも今は城に囚われているそうです。
Sorry,
今夜の相手は、真っ先に青子の祖父の動きを封じたようですから。
Okay, two things. One, they have a castle. Huh? And two, uh-oh. Toko has them all in. The two exchange pleasantries. I wouldn't call that pleasantries. Sojiro did not move from the foot of the stairs.
おや、そちらは。
Oh boy. Though the father seemed calm, his words had an edge to them. As if to protect Sojiro from his gaze, Alice stepped between them.
彼は青子の使い魔。契約はまだなされていないけれど。
I mean, you're not wrong. That's kind of what he is.
使い魔ってアリス。
Sojiro was about to complain, but Alice shot him a fiery glare. That all but said, just shut up and play along.
そうですか。そのような申告はありませんでしたが、届けが遅れたのは不問としましょう。
I actually wonder if the church would just be like, would they be not knowledgeable enough about mages to be like, oh, you got people familiar. Sure, okay. I mean, whatever, right? Or are they know your enemy type that would be like, we know that's really difficult to do.
外部の魔術師と交戦中でしたからね。あなたたちはその撃退を最優先にした。
Alice nodded in thanks.
では通ります。彼の同行を許可しなさい。
ご自由に。私はこれより朝廷に向かいます。管理者が変わるのなら、両教会への資料を用意しなければいけませんので。ああ、留守中は律香に任せてありますから、必要なものがあれば彼女に。
As if passing the baton, Father Airy exited the church. Sojiro took 2 full steps back to give him a wide berth. Oh, he don't trust him. The priest had a dignified air about him. To put it bluntly, he was strikingly beautiful again. I wouldn't know if he was a man until he spoke. Straight nose, glistening lips. Sojiro, got something to say, buddy? Not a single imperfection on his mildly effeminate face. You know what? That's fair. Yeah, mildly effeminate, right? But that only went as far as his appearance. His manner lacked any softness or grace. Just by looking at him, you could tell he was dependable, like tempered steel, despite being somewhat unapproachable. To be fair, I've met many priests. I wouldn't say many of them are approachable. The priest disappeared silently into the night, the darkness of his coat overpowering the moonlight. Please tell me we will get to see him shoot some black keys at some point, though. In awe, Sojiro watched him leave.
なんか仙人みたいな人だな。
Uh-huh. In his own way, Sojiro was expressing his affection. For some reason, Father Airy's distant tone made him feel nostalgic. Huh. Alice gave Sojiro a deathly stare.
気を許さないで。彼は教会の人間よ。私たちを監視する側だけど、今回は彼の手を借りるしかなかっただけ。許されるなら、真っ先に消えてほしい人間だから。
Dang. Her curse ringing in the air, Alice placed her hand on the doors to the chapel. They were twice her height, and who knows how heavy. I mean, I feel you should. You're the narrator. I feel like... what? That's a very... the narrator can see. I mean, I guess if Sojiro's meant to kind of be the soft narrator, I guess it makes sense that he's not holding it. So I don't know how heavy those doors are. It did not look like she could open them anytime soon. Sojiro climbed the stairs 3 at a time. Oh, it's because she couldn't. Okay. Okay, I see. I see. Sojiro climbed the stairs 3 at a time and helped Alice push the towering doors inward. The dim light of the chapel brought with it the familiar scent of burning oil. The ecclesiastical interior was breathtaking. The tall ceiling, the stained glass windows on every wall, it all felt intended to illustrate the presence of the Holy Spirit within those chambers. Like the foyer in the Kuonji estate, there was not a single heater, and the bitter cold made the chapel feel more severe.
あっちゃん、こっちよ。
The gentle voice echoed through the chamber, incongruous to its surroundings. It was the voice of a woman.
リツカさん、奥。
Alice made her way past the rows of pews towards the front altar. Sojiro closed the large doors and hurried after her. That is a comfy outfit.
これから迎えに行こうと思ったのに。使える足があったから。後ろ。足って。あれ？あなた。
Like her little lean.
Oh.
Sojiro showed himself, surprising the woman. They stared intently at each other, wondering what the other was doing here.
知り合い？ああ、うん。まずいことに知り合い。宗十郎さん、引っ越したって話だけど、もしかしてあっちゃんのところに下宿してるの？
Okay. I was like, because I heard earlier, I'm like, you didn't say Ali, but Achan to Ali, that's pretty good actually. See, that's a translation that I do like, because like Achan doesn't like that's how they do nicknames and stuff, but it doesn't really, it's not like how they work in English, right? But Ali, yeah, like calling her Ali, I like that. That shows a familiarity, right? Sojiro nodded. Alice turned visibly sour at this unexpected development.
どういうこと？しずきくん、リツカさんとはどういう関係？
Wow, you look really angry.
関係って、お魚屋さんでしょっちゅう割引してもらったり、荷物持ちを頼んでみたり、たまにお茶飲んだりする主婦の友みたいな。
Yeah. Male wife.
意味がわかりません。リツカさん結婚していないでしょ。
You don't have to be married to a male wife to reap the male wife benefits. Needless to say, Sojiro was also not a housewife's best friend in all that suggested, but there were more urgent matters at hand. Yeah, he's a male wife himself.
うわ、そこを突っ込むのか。あっちゃん、私にだけは一切妥協がないのはどうかと思うの。リツカさんの場合、どこまで本気かわからないから。おかしなところは全部追求しておかないといけないだけよ。あら素敵。仲のいい姉妹みたいね、私たち。じゃあ、その信頼に応えて本当のこと言うと、彼とは町内会の顔見知りよ。スパイ行為とかそういうんじゃないし、そもそもそんな器用な人じゃないでしょ、宗十郎さんは。
He's like a shaking puppy in human form.
本当？
Alice stared straight at Sojiro. To let him know that she was mad at him for hiding this from her. To be fair,
魚屋でバイトしてる時に知り合った人だ。
it's not like you two had much of a talking relationship before this.
前に親切にしてもらったんで、お礼にイワシを一匹サービスしたら、それ以来ごひいきに。
A singular sardine. One of the smallest denominational units of fish.
そうそう。商店街で買い物してれば、嫌でも宗十郎さんとは顔見知りになるわ。
I mean, isn't he, just the town bicycle, am I right?
あっちゃんも怒るぐらいなら買い
I
物
don't
に
think
来
I
ればい
used
いの
that
に。
term right.
密かな商店街のアイドルです、彼。
Secret stud in place of idol? I get that, because idol has other meanings in a church.
アイドルとは人気者という意味で、値切りやすいかもって意味じゃないような。
Oh, there was some wordplay with that. There was some wordplay with that is not what that text says. Interesting. His apparent popularity would have to be questioned another time. Collecting herself, Alice focused on the door in the recesses of the
リ
church.
ツカさんの事情は知りませんが、彼は青子の連れです。その他に説明はいりますか？ああ、やっぱりそういうことなのね。ま、言いたいことはいろいろあるけど、今はそれどころじゃないし。 ええ、了解したわ。他ならぬあっちゃんの頼みだし、特殊な例だけど、彼はこちらで保護しましょう。
Alice nodded and began walking to the door.
アリス、
ダメよ、宗十郎さん。
As Sojiro was about to follow Alice, Ritsuka stepped in his way.
あなたは言ってはいけません。彼女たちに任せなさい。
That's not gonna happen. That's not gonna happen. We all know that's not gonna happen. She asserted bluntly. Meanwhile, Alice had reached the door and entered further into the chapel.
言ってはいけないって。
あなたのためよ。青子の容体は普通の人が見ていいものじゃない。気分を悪くするだけ。
I want to be like, well, it's a good thing I'm not a normal person. I don't understand how elevators work.
それとも嫌な思いをしてもいいくらい青子が心配なのかしら。
Sojiro was not able to give an immediate answer. It had finally hit him now just how bad a state Aoko must be in. Based on Alice's condition when he found her, he intuited that Aoko's injuries might be even worse. He tried to imagine her expression in that state, but he could not.
青崎相手に心配なんかしません。
Literally, he had never been worried about her before, not
で
truly.
も会いに行くのね。
はい。
He answered her reflexively. Ritsuka sighed at the boy's naivete, but nonetheless stepped aside.
どうぞ行ってらっしゃい。アリスさんが使ったドアから入って4番目の部屋よ。
You really had to put her in the 4th room, huh? You really had to put her in that one.
今一番取り込んでる頃だからゆいちゃんの邪魔だけはしないように。
Sojiro thanked her and went after Alice, leaving Ritsuka Susei, the self-proclaimed everybody's friendly neighbor, alone.
さてゆいかあたりなら止めるんでしょうけど、ま、私は宗十郎さんの味方だし、傷つく男の子とか大好物だし。
That is an incredibly horrible thing to say, actually. Could you imagine, though, if a guy said, I got a thing for broken girls? That would be the worst thing you could say. That's wild.
少々スパルタと自覚しておりますが、これも親切な姉心と思って宗十郎さんには後悔していただきましょう。
A Spartan education, she said. She spoke with force, but her words echoed aimlessly around the chapel. Does she just have fourth wall vision? I feel like she's speaking directly to the audience at this point. With a sigh, she shrugged her shoulders and made the sign of the cross in a rather unpious manner. That's okay, that's really funny. She knows she said something horrible, so then she just does the sign of the cross. That's too real. That's too real. The sound of Sojiro's footsteps grew fainter. His lack of hesitation had left a pain in her heart. And not because he did not look back at her, but because he was choosing to ignore the primal fear inside him. I love this game's depiction of, like, Christianity. Or I guess Catholicism. Either way. It's just real. It's just the most real and, like, honest. But not be... It's like, it's real and honest without being preachy. It feels unbiased and truthful, which I appreciate. I feel like it's either completely ignored, completely turned to evil, or it is end-all be-all the best thing ever, Super Noah's Ark 3D. An elderly man once said, an animal's death and a human's are two different things. You may think they are the same, but they differ to their core. Our heads have known the difference since the dawn of man. An animal's corpse, be it a pig's or a deer's, is different. If the swing of an axe or machete is violent, then so must a human corpse be. Therefore, before you see one with your own eyes, you should at least understand it with your ears. Listen closely, Sojiro. When a person dies, blood flows like a crimson river. It's too much to bear. Perhaps because he was not used to the stone path beneath his feet, Sojiro's mind wandered back to the words he'd heard as a child. Oh! That was not real. That was like an illusion. Whoa, that was crazy. The instant he opened the door, there was a palpable change in the air. The room was small, with only a simple bed and a small wooden dresser. And there on the bed was lying on her side. Tending to her was the woman he'd just seen in the chapel, Ritsuka. Well, no. She only looked a lot like her. Oh my god, every time the blood appears, that's terrifying. Her eyes were closed and her garments covered in blood. He had met her maybe once before. Yuika Suse, a nun at the church. She was doing something to... Yuika held a pair of scissors and some thread. Her hands moved delicately yet quickly, as though playing an organ. They were playing organs, all right. Her movements were precise, as if flawlessly reading sheet music. One by one, the supply of bandages diminished. Bandages recently applied to the wounds were quickly replaced with fresh ones. Gauze was placed everywhere to try and cope with the amount of blood. She is messed up! Once white cloth was now dyed red and discarded. The dressings scattered around the floor resembled roses. In a wilted rose garden, the nun played her organ. The scene looked unlike any reality Sojiru knew. It was clear why the air had changed. There was a savage odor in the room. Even though he was experiencing it for the first time, he knew what it was. The smell burned his lungs. He could not bring himself to look at the bed. Fighting his feelings, his eyes refused to move there. He noticed Alice next to the bed. Her ever expressionless, she looked like a statue next to a grave. Except she was trembling, ever so slightly. It could have been from fear, anxiety, rage, or a combination of the three. Before her lay a life on the verge of death. But whose life? It was difficult to tell with only a glance. Some sort of puppet covered in bandages, perhaps. Her hair should be beautiful, but it fell flat, disheveled. Despite her short breaths, her chest convulsed. Up, down, up, down. Facetious though the thought was, Sojiru recalled the rodeo machine on the roof of the department store. That is quite facetious, I would say, but we can't control our thoughts at this time. The painkillers and anesthesia could not have been working. New bandages were soaked crimson in seconds. Her fingernails bit into the sheets. Her face twisted in agony. Anesthesia would not be enough, so even if she was still alive, she must be conscious. It worried him that no one seemed concerned about this. In this state, she would surely lose her mind before her life. In short, the boy never wanted to see anything like this ever again. Bed sheets should be white, not red. With every blink, the color deepened. Sojiru was finally forced to accept that the bleeding mess in the center of it all was her. He felt the blood surge in his veins. The squeaking of the bed, the snip of the scissors, the gasps of agony. It all faded. All he could hear was his own pounding heartbeat. The smell of the blood she choked up sent a wave of nausea through him. His knees abandoned him. It was perfectly understandable. His brain had to shut his consciousness off to protect itself. The mind could only take so much reality. He would give anything to never see something like that again. Once again, Kinoku Nasu, absolute master at writing horror. Like, that was
そうか。
terrifying.
青子ちゃんは全部わかっているんだね。
That was terrifying. And the fact that we weren't shown her is part of that. Because we can only imagine, right? In a game where you pretty much see everything that's meant to be there, aside from riding a bike, I guess. But, you know, in a game where we are shown reality, if you will, the fact that we don't see it is terrifying. How bad is it? Well, the answer is as bad as your mind can make it. I know my mind was filling in the blanks. My mind was vividly filling in the blanks. And it was awful, right? And I think that's one thing I love about Nasu's horror writing. His writing that goes beyond just, you know, things happening, but just describing it. God, the visceral imagery in my mind during that whole thing was nauseating, right? And I mean, it does come then down to how well your own mind can perceive it, right? Obviously based on your own experiences in life, or your just simply the vividness, the apple metaphor, right? When you imagine an apple, how do you imagine it? But still, for someone like me, who I would say I have quite the vivid imagination, for better or worse, that was terrifying. What a great writer. Anyways,
自分だけのことじゃなくて、この後に起きることも、何が残って何が残らないのかも、全部まっすぐに受け止めている。
is that Toko talking to Aoko?
それでも自分であり続けられるということは、とても強いことなんだよ。
Or is that her mother? That's the question. And on she went. I kind of liked her smile, but she just had to go and say the one thing I wish she hadn't. The last day of middle school seemed so long ago. As the ephemeral cherry blossom petals danced around, my little dream was crushed. I never really considered myself strong, at least until I began remembering those words from time to time.
青崎は分かってると思ってた。いや、きっと分かってるんだな。だから、そこが強いんだろうね。
And lately, an idiot who said things like that had appeared in my life. I knew I always judged people more harshly than those around me, but to have someone I'd only known for a few days point that out was like a stab in the chest. Not only that, the words sounded so similar, they made me so angry I couldn't see straight. Only him and one other person have ever said anything like that to me. And again, I suppose my sister said the same without actually saying it. You're different from us. But me being me, I took it as a curse rather than a compliment. My actions, my choices, my morals, all the good and bad I've done. When all's said and done, am I really any better than anyone else? Of course I am. I'll never sacrifice myself for those around me. They just had to call me strong, true to myself, in spite of how alone, stubborn, and ridiculous I know I can be. When I was younger, it only confused me. I mean, I don't know any other way. I am who I am. The frustrating fact is, I simply don't have the courage to give up. So, why? Why do I get treated special for doing what comes naturally? The sunlight stirred her. Maybe it was the pain from having her whole body held together by arcane threads, but Aoko felt like she had a silly dream. She gulped air through her painful, parched throat. Gray rays of light shone through a small window, bringing her back to reality. Oh, that's the worst. I had hepatitis. It's true. And part of that was jaundice, which made me yellow and itchy all over, all the time. I wanted to die. Itchy is one of the worst things a human can be. And especially when I had to get an IV put in, because that site where they put it in was then itchy. And any microscopic movement of my body made it itchier. It was truly the most painful moment of my life where I actually wanted to die. And I got it because a kid's coughed in my face. I was trying to remember if he coughed or sneezed. No, he coughed in my face. And this is why I stopped teaching children. Unable to bear it, Ako attempted to roll over. Except she could only move her right arm. She tried lifting her arm, but she couldn't feel anything past her elbow. Sorry, she could only move her right arm. When she stopped concentrating on her bandaged arm, it fell to the bed like a stone. Ako took in her surroundings, moving only her eyes. Evidently, she'd been asleep in this bed. Unable to feel certain parts of her body, she felt like a robot. The room was tiny and undecorated. It was like an apartment without a tenant. Judging by the good repair, she guessed that she was in Ida Church. Outside, it seemed closer to noon than morning. Clouds filled the sky as usual, dulling the sun's rays. Idly, she thought that it could be enough to melt the snow outside. And then finally she noticed the figure of a girl. Next to her bed, Alice Kuonji was sitting in a chair, unmoving.
おはよう、アリス。
She called out to her, all too casually. It was more difficult to talk than she thought. Alice was her typical stoic self, although Aoko did notice a glimpse of concern in her eyes.
寝てないんでしょ。肌が荒れてる。
God, you don't look great.
努力はしたわ。けど、瞳子さんに飲まされたものが解毒されるまで眠れそうにないの。
Really? Really? Do you have like some self-defense mechanism as you sleep or something?
半端な痛みは、こういう時に生ぬるいわね。
No! No, Alice would never say fart. Okay, this is the first localization. This is the very first localization thing that I disagree with.
半端な痛みは、こういう時に生ぬるいわね。
I don't know enough Japanese to know if she says that. No, she would never say that word. That word would never leave her lips. She would say maybe a fluff or a toot, but she would never say fart. And you see that extra space. You see that extra space after is, you know that was something that they needed to put in there. That there was discussions about that. I disagree with that so much. She would never say fart. Alice's apparently it was meant to be uncharacteristically vulgar. But I truly don't believe she would ever say that. Alice's uncharacteristically vulgar comment helped Aoko feel... Oh, it's making me flustered. Alice's uncharacteristically vulgar comment helped Aoko feel a little more like her usual self. She felt reassured, having a comrade in arms by her side instead of a concerned neighbor.
そう、アリスもやられたの。状況は大体予想してるけど、一応細部を聞かせてくれない？
She's like, tell me how you got your ass kicked. Aoko remained horizontal. You don't have to put it that way. That's kind of lame. Of course she remained horizontal. There's no other way. But she remained horizontal as she spoke with a cool tone. Despite Aoko's condition, Alice granted her request. After all, they had known each other for 2 years. Alice knew exactly the kind of anesthesia Aoko Ozaki needed right now. She wanted to hear how she got messed up. Alice Kuonji's battle with Toko Ozaki ended in the former's victory. The Thames Troll was a special... It's a bit weird it's telling us her side of the story, but because we saw it, but okay. The Thames Troll was a special familiar even among fairy tale monsters. While lacking the incredible reality warping abilities of Flat Snark, its sheer mass, durability, and strength were second to none. Toko's rune magecraft was rendered completely ineffective by its stone armor. In all fairness to Toko, most mages would not stand a chance against the bridge giant. The reason lay in the mystic's body. As a general law of magecraft, a mystic will lose to a stronger, older mystic. And yeah, people explained to me the whole deal with why Beowulf being a super ancient, mystic actually matters a lot. That is something that was explained, and I get that now. The history of the bridge giant dated back well over 1,000 years. Its origins could be traced to the 1st century when Britannia was conquered by the Romans. Conversely, despite having roots dating back to the Age of Gods, runes had unfortunately been lost to time. Rune magecraft was little more than an attempt to revive and use a dead art. However, monsters from fairy tales like the troll were different. They lived on in the hands of Alice Kuonji. The magical world was vast, but one could probably count on one hand the number of magecraft that still functioned after being chanted into existence a millennia ago as Alice's ploys did. In contrast, Toko the rune user was only about 2 decades old. Carving a rune took only a moment. There was no way a quick spell could defeat the personification of London Bridge in Alice's homeland. That being said, a beast had appeared that surpassed even those from fairy tales. Beowulf, the golden beast. It seemed absurd to compare a small and relatively powerless wolf to a towering stone giant. The Thames Troll's attacks were earthquaking. A direct hit from its 50-ton strikes would smash anything to paste, while a glancing blow would still create mincemeat. and yet the beast had attacked head-on and tore right through it. The wolf's fur bristled, and the creature metamorphosed like liquid. It was a breathtaking display. The wolf howled at the moon as if in joy, and streaked forth like a bolt of golden light. In an instant, the duel was decided. So you're saying that he used, like, John Talbane's quarter circle back kick? Like his, like his little thing? Really? Okay. Yeah. Wow. Okay. The Wolf Blitzer, as they call it in Skullgirls. The radiant spear of a wolf flew straight through the giant's chest and sank its teeth into its heart. The troll exploded. Chunks of stony muscle rained down. Luminous fur scattered in the wind. I guess, yeah, we didn't see this in full, huh? 2 mystics dispersed without a trace and returned from whence they came. The curtain fell on a battle straight out of mythology. There among the rubble of the fairy tale monster was the golden wolf, standing like a flame. What came after could barely be described as a battle. It was more like the slaughter of defeated pawns. The wolf leapt on Alice, disemboweling her with ease. Its claws cut through the protective wards on Alice's coat like a hot knife through butter. The golden wolf, this wolf which understood human speech, could only be the magical creature known as the werewolf. Werewolves were the forest people of Western Europe, with origins far more ancient than the fabricated vampire legends of the continent. Ooh, good use of the word fabricated there, because there's a big difference between the fabricated vampire legends and what vampires were actually like. However, none were known to have golden coats. It was said that the most elite werewolf bloodlines boasted silver fur. Silver werewolves were pack leaders, and werewolves of that caliber were considered phantasmal rather than merely magical creatures. But a golden werewolf was superior even to that, and so transcended human knowledge. Alice Kwonji's ploys were among the ultimate mystics to have been created by humankind, and therefore the golden wolf could only have been a mystic born of the planet. When a celestial body has been active for millions, even billions of years, occasionally a miraculous droplet of creation spills over into our current world. Hey, why is creation a capital C? What? That's the first I'm hearing of this. I'm assuming it's talking about the idea of, like, the center of the spiral, right? The center of the root. Because if everything kind of came from the root, I'm going to assume that the creation is part of that. This mystic had to be over 3,000 years old. A human mage. No, any mage living in the current magical paradigm would be helpless against the golden wolf. Not even in theory would they stand a chance of defeating it. Which meant that this werewolf was Aoko and Alice's worst nightmare. Please tell me, but Sojiro, who knows not of magic, but can punch a dog, will be fine. It's like a Digimon thing, data vaccine, virus. The same thing. Mystic beats mage, mage beats human, human can punch a dog.
アリスがお手上げの相手だものね。私がどうにかできるはずもなかったわけだ。でも、要は魔術でなければいいのよね。
Oh my god, what did I just say? Oh my god, I was kind of making a joke, but that's what we're doing, huh?
テムズの動力は魔力だけど、テムズのパンチは純粋な衝撃でしょ。当たりさえすればぺしゃんこじゃないの。
I still stand by that. If we were to have Alice in Melty Blood, quarter circle forward, double punch there should just be straight up Bloatia punch with the Thames Troll.
残念だけど、あれ、基本は狼の姿なだけで、状況によって形を変えるわ。テムズの腕を受け止めた時は大猿みたいになっていたし。
Oh.
機関銃やロケットで狙ってもかわされるか体の硬い生き物に変化して防ぐんじゃないかしら。
Oh, that's interesting, actually.
地球上の生き物なら何にでも変われるってことか。
Okay. So it's kind of like a play on Nero Chaos, but instead of containing and using 666 beasts, it just can transform into any of them.
でもまあ質量までは無理かな。基本は2メートル台の生物のいいとこ取りってあたりで勘弁してほしいわね。ねえ、すごく関係ないけど、深海の生き物に変わってたらちょっと怖いと思わない？
Can you imagine? What if he became a sea cucumber? Wouldn't that be funny? Lamau. Ako narrowed her eyes as if she bemoaned this creature's existence. The conversation appeared to have revived her fighting spirit. Once again, her eyes were focused and her thoughts clear. Ako was back to her usual self.
で、その後はアリスうまく逃げられたの？
いいえ、私もあの狼にやられたわ。
Alice explained how the wolf had pinned her to the ground. Incidentally, she kept the part about Sojiro rather short. Alice herself was not entirely sure why she felt it was necessary to leave most of that information out.
アリスが相手をした後、休む間もなく私のところに来たわけか。初めから昨日で決着をつけるつもりだったんだ、兄貴。姉妹かな。ここぞって時のタイミングは一緒だったの忘れてた。切り札は見せたからには敵を殲滅しなくちゃいけない。姉貴は視点を残り2つにしておいて、自分の正体を告げてこっちの戦力を分けさせた。その時点で奥の手を投入してくることは覚悟してたけど、まさか人狼なんて極物とはね。
It is possibly one of the most unexpected things you could imagine. Ako let out a heavy sigh. Alice nodded slightly in agreement.
それはそれとして、宗十郎がアリスを助けに行くなんてね。感謝しなくちゃいけないんだろうけど、バカな真似してくれたわ。私が東子の立場なら、報復の可能性は一つ残らず排除する。
I'd be finishing up those side quests, you know?
私たちがどうにかなった後、猫の手首ひねるみたいに片付けられるわよ、あいつ。
しずきくんならこちらで保護してもらってるけど。
Ako's eyes widened.
うわ、どういう風の吹き回し？アリスがあいつの世話を焼くなんて。
だって放っておいたら青子が怒ると。
No, you weren't. No, you weren't. Alice, you take in broken things and keep them under your care. And my man is kind of broken. Alice responded with her eyes closed. Ako frowned in silent indignation, as if she wanted to protest where Alice got that idea from.
まあいいけど、それじゃあ今ここにいるんだ、宗十郎。
To be fair, you would
姿が見えないけど、どうしたの？
you would get mad. You hate when stuff happens to your property. Still unable to move her neck, she looked around as best she could.
彼なら気分を悪くして倒れたわ。今はエイリ神父の寝室を借りているけど。
Don't know how I feel about this young man being in the priest's bedroom. Sorry, I know I just have one joke. It writes itself. Alco furrowed her brow. It collapsed. Sure, he was under the church's protection, but had Toko set the wheels in motion for his death?
何があったの？一体。
Alice paused for a moment before carefully answering the question.
それが
Is it going to be that he saw you?
彼、
Yeah.
あなたを見て嘔吐したの。
Yep. She decided to be blunt. Ako was taken aback. For several seconds, dim sunlight leaked through the window. When she had found her voice again, she muttered,
いいけど、ひどい侮辱よね、それって。
Literally just wow, rude. Perhaps amused or perhaps exhausted from staying up all night, Alice cracked a small giggle.
何よ、そんなにおかしい、アリス。
さあ、どうかしらね。けど、しずきくんにも言い分はあるでしょう。
Like, Alco, you have to
とても見られたものじゃないわ。
you have to understand, you were so bad, the game couldn't display you. She's like, oh god. Aqua praised her physical state while a song that always gets me hit for copyright started to play. She was dressed in a hospital gown. Bandages covered the majority of her body. Her right leg was in a plaster cast. Since she could move her right arm, she brought her bandaged fingers up to her throat.
そっか、思い出した。
The,
あのガキ、 まず私の首元に噛みついたんだっけ。
Okay, you're probably talking about like a dog, but for some reason, I just imagine Toko just clamping on. What the frick? Why are you doing that?
すごかったわよ、首が噛み砕かれるのって。
Gross,
ド
yeah.
キーンって音が頭の中に響いて気持ち悪いったらなかったわ。
That's horrible.
ちあそこから好き勝手やられたもんだからつい忘れてた。
It was Beowulf. Naoko sounded upbeat, but the look in her eyes was anything but. She had been torn to pieces, but her life had been mercifully spared. At least she hadn't been dismembered. She had been bitten, beaten, and her bones broken. Magic crests containing the Yaozaki's secret arts decorated her body. Even if her spine was broken, as long as her body was alive, the crests would piece it back together. Despite the crests easing the pain a little, she was still hurt enough to want to kill that wolf 100 times over.
視点は全部壊された。これで三崎氏の霊脈はフリーってわけね。全容を把握してるのはうちらだけの特権だったけど、東子は昔から知ってる以上解析の手間もいらないと。真剣な話、所有権の書き換えまで何時間かかると思う？
東子さんなら2日かからないでしょうね。支店の修復は土地そのものに任せるしかない。支店のプロテクトが治る頃にはこの町はもう彼女のものよ。
This is the big old game of like tower defense.
明日の夜明けとともに破産する我が身とはね。それでアリスの方はどうなの？まだいける？
思考魔術だけなら少しは。あとは小道具に頼ることになるでしょうね。
ああ、お話にならないか。
Naoko went silent again, staring straight at the ceiling. Alice knew all too well what that look meant.
それでもやるんでしょ、青子は。
まあね、私諦めるのってできないから。で、そういうアリスはどうなのよ？
私は一度自分のものになったものは
Naoko muttered in agreement to Alice's terse response. Alice's intense attachment to her possessions was enough to make even Aoko shiver. When something is mine, it stays mine. To take it a step further, betrayal was an unforgivable sin. His personal motto was further proof of her uncompromising
オッ
nature.
ケー、決まりね。じゃ、悪いけどもう少し休ませて。今晩までには何とか動けるようにするから。
If the nun who stitched her back together had heard that, she would have fainted. Aoko could barely even eat in her current condition. Even so, Alice nodded and stood up. As Aoko's partner, she knew that once her mind was made up, she had to trust her. Silently, the girl in black began to take her leave. She stopped in front of the door, her hand to her mouth.
アリス？
Aoko was curious, suspecting that Alice had something silly to say again. Quite the contrary. Instead of blushing, Alice furrowed her brow like she was thinking over a difficult riddle.
アリス？
Aoko called out, but Alice remained with her back to her roommate.
なんで間に合ったのかしら。
She spoke as if the words had accidentally burst out from her thoughts. Alice's question was about something Aoko could not possibly have guessed.
あの時もそう。私たち始発で帰ってきたのに。
Huh. She carried on mumbling at the door. Unable to find an answer, Alice gloomily put her hand on the doorknob.
言いたくないなら別にいいけど。何がどうしたっていうのよ、アリス。
Alice did not respond. So is it not that he just runs fast? Is there actually something up? Alice did not respond. She opened the door to leave the room and left a few words hanging in the air.
どうでもいいことだけど、ゆいかさんにはしずきくんは見えなかったそうよ、青子。
Well, I mean, yeah. She can't see anything. Wait, unless... What? Hold up. Wait, what? Wait. The door closed with a thud.
そりゃまた珍しい。
Aoko mumbled to herself from her bed, seeming slightly happier. Blind since birth. Okay, yeah. Yuika Suse saw the world through her other senses. So she's Daredevil. She was especially sensitive to enemies or those who bore ill will, and typically viewed almost everyone as a threat, presumably because that was the easiest thing to pick up on. So when she said she couldn't see Sojiro, that meant he was completely harmless. He is a human puppy. Dang, okay. And then, the harmless individual decided to pay the small sick room a visit. Sojiro looked like a stiff breeze could knock him over. It made Aoko wonder who the real patient was.
何しに来たのあんた。
Oh, you're not happy. Though Aoko could barely move, she was still able to give him the cold shoulder. His expression gaunt, Sojiro grunted something or other before beginning to speak more coherently.
アリスが客間で眠ったから礼拝堂にいたんだけど、人が集まりだしたんで、こっちに逃げてきた。
あ、礼拝の時間か。クリスマスだってのによくやるわ。
It was indeed Christmas, the Holy Night. The regular Mass was on Christmas Eve. The ones gathering in the chapel must have been truly devout followers. Tourists were rare in Misaki, after all, so much so that almost no one visited the area this time of year. The worshippers must have been locals.
それで別にどうってことないでしょ。探せば顔見知りもいるんじゃない？
Ako was as distant as ever. She clearly had not forgotten the fact that he had vomited when he saw her, and a hint of spite leaked into her voice. Then again,
いや、ちょうどいい機会だから、いろいろと聞きたくなって、少し話をしていいかな。
since Ako was always in a bad mood, Sojiro did not pick up on anything out of the ordinary. She wanted to tell him to go drink some water because he looked ready to collapse, but he didn't seem aware of his own condition. And to be fair to him, Alice did say Ako was in bad shape. Given how unaccustomed to blood Sojiro was, it was no wonder he had fainted.
ああ、そうか。話なんてまだ無理だな。すまない。出直してくる。
Sojiro seemed to have misunderstood Aoko being deep in thought as not having enough stamina to speak. Naturally, this did not sit well with Aoko.
待ちなさいよ。話だけなら別に構わないわ。やる気持て余してるし、暇つぶしがてらに相手してあげるわよ。ま、退屈しのぎにしてはちょっとグレード下がるけど、この際贅沢言ってられないし。
Even in this situation, you're still gonna be like this, huh? Sojiro sensed this was gonna be rough, but took a seat on the chair next to the bed.
で、何が聞きたいの？
Aoko spoke energetically in an attempt to distract from her weakened appearance. Naturally, she knew she was fooling no one.
やっぱり青崎は強いな。安心した。
Sojiro said, nodding in admiration. Ako shot him an unimpressed look in response to the unwanted praise.
あんたってほんと間が悪いわ。
Mm-hmm.
いいわよ、別に。私の夢の話だから、そっちが気に病むことは。
She glowered, remembering. Come to think of it, almost everyone in her dream was here in the church, turning her dour expression into an irritated one.
やめやめ、こんなつまんない話。聞きたいことがあるなら手っ取り早く済ませちゃってよ、宗十郎。
よかった。じゃあ、まず今の状況を聞かせてくれないか。東子さんの話じゃ、俺も無関係じゃないそうだし。
Sojiro spoke calmly, making Aoko wonder if he really understood the gravity of his situation. He was Toko's enemy now. He was defenseless and needed protection. Neither Aoko nor Alex could help him, and the church could withdraw their sanctuary at any moment. He had picked a side, and that turned him from an innocent bystander into a target. The answer he sought was as simple as that. He knew the facts. He was not a mage, and was therefore powerless.
まあ、それでもアリスは助けられたわけだし。
Aoko did owe him for that. To say thanks, she decided to at least give him the whole story up until now.
よし、今までの経緯も含めて軽く説明してみましょうか。私も何か得るものがあるかもしれないし。
Aoko composed herself before beginning her explanation. The battle began at the end of November. A lot had happened since then, including meeting Sojiro.
事の起こりは1ヶ月前、三崎市に貼られた結界の端っこが何者かに消されたのが発端だった。私が跡継ぎになってから5度目の三崎市を狙う敵の登場ってわけ。今回の敵は私たちとは直接戦わず、まず土地を奪うところから始めたわ。今までのやつは私たちを半人前と舐めていたから、大抵は真正面から仕掛けてきて 勝手にアリスの猟犬の餌食になったんだけど、まあそれはどうでもいいとして、町の結界には2種類あって、侵入者を見つけるものと土地の力を有効利用するものがあるの。敵が壊したのは土地の結界の方で、これが全部壊されると私やアリスは土地の所有権を失ってしまう。土地のないはぐれ魔術師と同じになっちゃうのよ。もちろんそうならないように侵入者をあぶり出すための結界があるんだけど、こっちには何の反応もなかった。ま、当然よね。今回の敵は私の姉貴青崎塔子その人だったんだから。青崎の結界は同族である姉貴を敵と見なさなかっ
Oh, that's why. That makes sense. I thought there'd be something with that, but yeah, literally just bloodline.
た。あるいは姉貴は結界の抜け道、構造の資格をついたのかもしれない。もともとうちの後継者はあの人だし、それぐらいの知識はあったでしょう。そうして姉貴は私たちに見つかることなく好き勝手に結界の視点を壊し始めた。時間をかけてゆっくり壊していったのは外からやってきた部外者を演じていたからでしょうね。さすがに連続して壊されればこっちも身内の犯行だと疑うし、うち親戚である浅木家とは仲悪いままだしさ。
Every time they give me a new name, I'm like, all right, putting that mentally into my head to look for anyone with that name.
姉貴の芝居に騙された私たちが間抜けなんだけど、セオリーとして結界崩しは長丁場になるものなの。管理地の結界は強固に作られているからね。普通は半年単位での攻防になる。攻める側はまず結界を形取る視点が何個あるか、それがどの5大要素でくくられているか、退去の正しい順序はどれか、
It's like a
それらを地道に解き明かしていく。
it's like a damn puzzle in a NES game.
もちろん管理地の魔術師たちの目を盗みながら、対して守る側は侵入者がいることに気づくから、悪さをされる前に敵の拠点を見つけ出して外敵を排除する。こんな感じで結界崩しは長期戦、あるいは前哨戦になるものなの。大抵は攻める側が視点を壊すぞとアピールして土地の持ち主を翻弄疲弊させてから魔術師同士の直接対決で決着がつくわ。なんで結界を全部壊す必要はないのよ。管理地の持ち主を始末した方が早いし、その後は術式さえ解読しちゃえば土地を結界ごと横取りできる。わざわざ壊して作り直すより昔からある結界の方が土地に馴染んでいて強力だしで一石二鳥でしょ。
That was how Aoko and Alice were duped. They never thought the enemy would waste time and effort and needed to break all the sigils.
だから私とアリスはとりあえず受けに回った。視点を探すために町を調査している敵を待ち伏せて、これを片っ端から倒そうって。でもそのうちの一つがケチのつき始めだった。三崎町の公園で山張って待ち受けていた時、どうでもいい第三者が覗き見してやがったのよ。
Indeed, it was the ultimate taboo in the world of magecraft. The existence of mages must never be revealed to
そ
outsiders.
の後のことはわかるでしょ。私は敵との小競り合いをアリスに任せて、それより重要な目撃者狩りに専念せざるを得なくなった。言っとくけど、これはあんたのことだからね。そこで我関せずみたいな顔しないこと。
No sooner had Aoko said that, Sojiro gave her that exact look. Clearly, he had been listening, but not necessarily understanding.
ま、いいけどね。宗十郎がそんなだから秘密は漏れなかったんだし。
Thank God you're stupid.
で、あんたっていう目撃者を消そうとした私の単独行動は敵にしても都合のいいものだった。強敵であるアリスがいないんだから、敵はこれを機会に私を始末しようと特注品の人形を差し向けたと思っていたけど、あれはただの嫌がらせね、間違いなく。そうでなきゃ私そっくりの人形なんて派遣するかっての。
Sojiro nodded, thinking back to the Aoko replica.
あれのことは忘れてちょうだい。まあそこから先はあんたもうすうす知ってるでしょ。私とアリスは敵との戦いに専念することになって、毎日のように捜査の手を空振って、大体の経緯はこんなところよ。
She stared down at her body, as if recalling what happened would help her accept her current state. Under the sheet, magical energy steadily flowed through her partially bandaged
青
body.
崎、これまでの君たちの話は分かった。けど、肝心の今の状況はどうなっているんだ？
Sojiro's specific concern was the reason Aoko was lying there. More than anything, he wanted to know what happened to her the night before.
バカね。状況も何も完全に私たちの負けじゃない。
Judging by her tone, she would have raised both hands sarcastically in celebration if she could.
負けた？
そう。事実は正しく受け止めなくっちゃね。5つの視点が全部壊された時点で勝負はついたの。管理地の所有権は宙ぶらりで、明日にはトウコの手に渡るでしょう。で、それを阻止したいこっちは、私もアリスもこのありさま。もう立場は逆転したから、これから私たちは挑戦者。つまり、はぐれ魔術師ってことよ。
Which meant that Aoko, Alice, and Sojiro only had a few more days with which to utilize the church's services. Ida Church was not only an arm of the Mage Association, but also a branch of the Holy Church that monitored heresy. Interesting. So it is tied with the association. Aoko and Alice were owners of Misaki City's spiritual lands, but they belonged to neither of these organizations. I'm going to be honest, I still need to remind myself sometimes on the exact relation of the church and the association and like how enemies, cooperative, like all that stuff, you know, like that's a whole... I mean, I have a hard enough time with the actual political structures of the real world. The only reason the church helped them at all was because they were the land's administrators. Once those rights were lost, the church would have no reason to provide any further aid.
エリ神父はコウモリだから私を助けてくれたけど、
Oh,
ユイカさん
yeah.
は教会の代行者だから、傷が塞がったなら明日にでも出ていけって。
She is an executor. Or executor. Executor? Executor? Executor!
教会にとっちゃ魔術師なんてもともと排除すべき商売敵だからね。バカリツカはま、泣きつけば力にはなってくれるでしょうけど。
Sojiro understood little of what Aoko was talking
そ
about.
うじゃなくて、青崎、昨日の夜、何があったんだ？
Sojiro pressed her, and Aoko really wished he had not.
見てわからない。惨敗なんてものじゃないわ。
He wants to know so he can know what to prepare for.
喉に食いつかれる。体中好き放題噛まれまくる。
Jeez.
挙句に右のももなんてなくなってたそうよ。ま、アリスのチョコレートのおかげで出血死は免れたけど。
Oh, it's like a senzu bean. She knocked on the cast around her leg. Aoko spoke casually but was trying to hide how much she wanted revenge for being humiliated. In contrast, Sojiro felt empty. The little color he had in his face began to fade. Was he repulsed by the terrible situation, or his instincts telling him to flee? Regardless, he appeared very human. Good! Its design is very human.
なんでそこで固まる？あ、そっか。私を見て吐き出しちゃうぐらいナイーブなんだっけ、宗十郎ってば。大丈夫よ、今はくっついてるから。ユイカさんは治療専門だし、私だってただやられてたわけじゃないし。復元は青崎の得意分野だから、あれくらい問題ないわ。
That's why she heals so much red life as a boss in Melty Blood. Which was the last one we played? Was it Act Cadenza? React? It was React, right? Frick, which one was it? It was, or was it Act Cadenza? I actually don't know which ones they are. Was it AC? Frick, I get confused with them. She gave him a reassuring look, but his expression was unchanged. It was not Act Cadenza. It was React. Aoko had expected him to worry, but this level of concern made it hard for even her to berate him. Feeling embarrassed, she started talking again.
けど姉切ったら、どうやってあんなのを手なずけたんだろう。金の狼なんて伝説の中にしかいないと思ってた。寝台の神秘であるあいつには千年クラスの魔術じゃないと太刀打ちできない。かといって殴り合いでどうにかできる相手じゃないし。
He's still gonna do it. As images of the night before entered Aoko's mind, she bit her lip in anguish.
真の狼
Conversely, the bizarre phrase snapped Sojiro out of his state of shock. Oh my god, are we gonna learn, like, he fought a golden wolf on the mountain at one point?
そう、黄金の人狼、勤労って言った方がいいのかな。狼男って言ってもわからないわよね。人間と狼のいいとこ取りみたいなやつと思えばいいわ。
That's a weird thing to say, but alright.
野獣というより魔獣の類よ。普通の人狼なら対抗手段はあるんだけど、トウコが連れてるのは黄金の毛並みをした怪物でさ。あれは原初の人狼の血統で、魔獣を通り越して幻獣の域に達している。聖域の相手にはそいつらを上回る神秘、積み重ねた時間とか魔術の奥義じゃないと無効化されるのよ。
To be fair, is there any older magecraft or mystic that I'm gonna punch it really hard?
魔術は万能だけど、この年月の差だけは覆せない。ま、人間の魔術師にとっては天敵みたいな自然災害ね。
Her words indicated more admiration than hatred. The way she'd whispered about the wolf strangely made sense to Sojiro.
何？
いや、要するに青崎たちじゃかなわない相手なんだな。なんてひどいやつだ。アリスはお腹が裂かれてた。青崎は傷ついてないところはないぐらいだ。子供なのに。いや、子供だから加減がないのか。
Mm-hmm. Sojiro's face was ghostly pale as he muttered nervously. Aoko merely nodded in agreement.
ほんと。人の体を何だと思っているのかしらね。あのお子さん。なぬ？
Yeah, wait, what? How would he know? Wait, what? Aoko raised her head. She looked as if she had seen a ghost.
子供って言った？あんた、なんでそんなことまで知ってるの？
Yeah, that's a very good question.
やっぱりそうなのか。金色の髪なんて2人もいないと思ったんだ。
What?
そいつなら一度見かけたことがある。青崎が口にしたような怪物じゃなかったけど、森の奥で木の実が2人がかりでとっちめようなんて怖いこと言い出してさ、金一個ないから止めたんだよ。
Wait. Oh my god, right, I forgot about that. His tone was as curious as the things he was trying to articulate. Aoko, however, had more pressing matters. Much more
見
pressing.
たって、どこで？
学校の旧校舎。あ、そういえば挨拶程度なら話もしたっけ。一度だけアルバイトの時に
Oh my god,
牛肉
being the
50
town
キロを生で
bicycle,
届け
he
た
has
ことがあって。
absolutely, he knows where their hideout is.
この大バ
Did she fly out of bed? A strangely satisfying slapping sound rang out. Ignoring her wounds completely, Aoko had grabbed a slipper and thrown it at Sojiro's unassuming face as hard as she could. She panted as Sojiro was knocked completely out of his chair. For a while, neither moved.
なんで怒るんだ、青崎。
He's like, "Are you done yet? Are you happy now?" The boy asked unfazed as he slowly picked himself up. He sat cross-legged as Aoko scowled at him like an enemy.
当たり前じゃない。なんでそんな怪しいこと黙ってんのよ、あんたは。
To be fair, all he knew was that there was a blonde kid. That's a rare thing, but not something that I would call noteworthy.
言うほどのことでもない。第一、君たちにこんな話をしても怒られるだけじゃないか。
It's true. Aoko knew he was right, so she swallowed her words. She imagined themselves at dinner.
ところで今日、牛肉の山を担いで届けたんだ。一匹丸ごと。いや、あるところにはあるものだね。お金。
If he had actually said it, Aoko and Alice's response would have been less than cordial.
それはそうだけど、本当に金髪の子供が旧校舎にいたの？
それが青崎の言う人狼かどうか、少なくとも町中の料理店が入れ替わりでおかしな注文を届けてるのは事実だ。駅前の大帝都なんてお得意様だって。
確かに食事のたびにあいつを外に出してちゃ目立つだろうけど。
She did not want to believe it, but the child had to be the werewolf. Could Toko really have been so careless as to hide him in plain sight? It didn't matter at this point. With the werewolf's habitat revealed, Toko's base had been revealed too. To take over the bounded field, she needed an inconspicuous place to store materials. Misaki High School's old school building was the perfect place.
つまり全ての鍵はあんたが隠し持ってたってわけね。
You didn't tell him!
隠していたんじゃない。
Yeah.
だいたい青崎が裏山の掃除に参加していたらその時に分かったんじゃないか。
It's true! Call her out!
飛び丸一人に任せず青崎も掃除に出ればよかったんだ。
Yeah, that's on you! In response to Sojiro's infallible logic, Ako snapped her fingers. Oh. Quit being so tsundere. Instead of another slipper missile, she let the faithful white collar express how she felt. And with the tightening of the collar, Sojiro realized something. Ako had changed. From the bed, she looked down on him with a commanding glare. Though weak from her injury, she was as sharp as ever. You'd be forgiven for forgetting she was ever a patient. She was raring to fight, and went without saying who her rage was directed at.
青崎
Ako responded in a vulnerable tone. Perhaps she had been taken by surprise. Now that she had an objective, she had been lost in her own little world.
ありがとう、宗十郎。
He expected her to be sarcastic, but this was different. She was genuinely thanking him. He had never known her to be like this and was taken aback.
あのね、とにかくトウコの居場所が分かったのはあんたのおかげだから、それがお気に召さなかった？
いやお礼を言ってもらえるのはいいことだけどまさかその体でトウコさんのところに行くつもりか。
His tone was closer to scolding than sympathetic. Ako simply nodded resolutely.
取られたものは取り返すものよ、宗十郎。それもすぐに相手のものになってしまう前にね。
She sounded unshakable. Even so, Sojiro would not back down.
勝ち目がなくてもか。暇はないと言うけど今はそれ以上に休息が必要だろう。その傷だって今は見れるけど昨日はひどかったじゃないか。
違うわ、あれは幸運なんかじゃない。
幸運じゃない。
そう、トウコはね、私が生き残れる程度の傷にとどめたのよ。
Dang.
だから私は生きてるんだし、トウコは私が行くのを待ってる。嫌だけどあんたの言葉を借りるならね。
Irritation tainted Aoko's words. From the side, she looked terrifyingly serious. She was ready to fight to the death. Toko had given her little choice. Sojiro could understand neither sister.
殺すために生かしたっていうのか。青崎はそれが分かっているのに行こうとしている。
そうよ、勝負はついたけどまだ私たちの話は終わっていないもの。確かに全開してから行った方がいいに決まってるけど、そうしている間にトウコは岬の深部にたどり着く。そうなったら私の最後の切り札さえ使えなくなる。自分にできることを自分からなくしてしまうのは。
Though the pain in her azure eyes was not as deep as the pain of death, it spoke of the regret she would feel if she did not do everything possible while blood still flowed through her veins.
納得いったのなら黙ってていい。これは私の戦い。あんたには何の責任も関わりもない。私の人生なの。座して死を待つなんてまっぴらごめんよ。勝つ気があるならいつまでもベッドで寝てるわけにはいかないでしょ。
Sojiro was dumbstruck. Aoko could never let anyone else get involved. Whether that was because she cared or cared less, he could not tell. What he did understand, though, was if he wanted to stop her, he would have to do so with his bare hands. And he knew better than to try that. Even so, he had to ask one last question. If he did not, he would not be able to live with himself after leaving this room.
わからないな。青崎はなんでそこまでするのか。君を縛っているのは義務と強制。どっちなんだろうね。
There was a sadness in his eyes. However, Aoko was unmoved by them.
らしくなく難しいこと聞いてくるのね。いいわ。口にしても仕方のないことだけど答えて。その2つはね、常に私を圧迫してるものだと思うけど勘違いはしないで。義務も強制も 誇りも恐れも周りから与えられたものじゃない。瞳子と戦うのをやめたところで祖父は私を叱らないだろうし、アリスも文句は言わないでしょう。ここで逃げてもそれはそれで誰にとってもどうでもいい話になって終わるだけだから、他人は関係ない。本当に意味なんてないのよ、何にだって。でも私は瞳子から逃げたりしない。これはただのここにいるっていう存在証明なの。私は単に意味がないからこそできることは全部やるって決めただけなんだから。
With fiery passion, Aqua Ozaki had said her piece. Sojiro was left with a pang in his chest. He did not know why, but her words angered him. And again, at the same time, her self-confidence had him in wonder. Even though she had said that her life had no meaning, her stubbornness gave meaning to everything.
じゃあそれがたとえ
Without thinking, he started to ask another question. Maybe he wanted to change her mind. Maybe he just wanted to hear her
た
answer.
とえ他の誰も見ていなかったとしても
Oh. It came out as a murmur. Indeed, if no one was watching, no one could know that she'd fled. This was the situation Aoko was in. Even so, she shot him down instantly.
あら、見てるわよ。少なくとも私自身がね。
Or God. Remember, we're in Jesus' house right now. Whoa! Her expression brightened, possibly because she'd been surprised at her having to state the obvious. Sojiro was wide-eyed and shocked, but Aoko remained nonchalant.
知らないの、宗十郎。生きてく上で一番の観客っていうのはね、他ならぬ自分自身なのよ。
Sojiro did not respond to her somewhat exasperated tone, but simply rose to his feet. He looked defeated, which was not like him at all.
宗十郎、
すまない。君が素晴らしいことを言っているのはわかるんだ。けど、俺にはわからない。
Huh. He meekly walked to the door. As he placed his hand on the doorknob, he paused. For a few seconds, he fought with himself, desperately trying to think of something to say. No words came forth, and so he opened the door, which swung with a strange creak, and he left the room. After watching him go, Aoko turned her gaze toward the window. It was nearly evening. A thin veil of darkness was threatening to descend on the town outside. You talking about the light, or are you talking about Toko taking it over, you know? And there it is. Darkness in the dark. By evening, only Sojiro remained in the chapel. He sat alone at the end of a pew, slouching helplessly like a guilty believer ready to confess. The chilly air seeped through the walls, turning breath to mist. The frigid air stole the heat from the body without mercy. Sojiro looked around at the chapel's tall ceiling and spacious hall. The room made the air feel colder somehow. Unsure of what to do with himself, he stared into space. His thoughts were entirely unfocused. First and foremost, he could not understand what the buzzing sensation was in his chest. Time passed by. No answers came. To onlookers, he must have seemed deep in thought or in deep sleep, like he would turn to stone if left be. Either way, he clearly looked down. The problem was his lack of awareness. Not that he was aware of it, of
おや、
course.
夜間の礼拝とは感心です。
Can you imagine if the end of this scene just turns out like, that's it! Sojiro is now Catholic! Sojiro raised his head and turned to where the voice had come from. Stood before the altar was the man from last night, dressed in priestly garbs. How long had he been standing there? Sound reverberated dryly throughout the chapel hall. Sojiro did not have the strength to stand, let alone leave. He just stared at the approaching shadow.
とも、この教会に精霊なんていませんけどね。
'Cause the Holy Spirit's inside each of us, right?
ここ、座りますがよろしいですか？
The priest pointed at Sojiro's pew. Without waiting for an answer, he took a seat at the opposite end. Did he genuflect first, though? Remember, before you sit in a pew, you have to genuflect.
改めて挨拶を。私は文塚エイリ。この教会の何なんでしょうかね。
Oh, that's
書類の上
interesting.
では持ち主になるんでしょうか。エイリ神父と呼んでください。
So much like Yumizuka became Yumiduka, right? This is Fumizuka. So it's like the z sound, right? Fumizuka. So that should be a Z, really. But for some reason they did it Fumizuka. It's a very strange way of doing it. I mean, it's not wrong, but I wouldn't do that. It just does, like, that doesn't look good for English, right? Like an English transliteration. I'm typing in his name into the wiki right now, and I'm just gonna see here. I'm not gonna go to his page, obviously. Eri Fumizuka. Yep, Fumizuka. I don't like that. I don't like that D for Yumiduka.
あなたは静木宗十郎くんですか。なるほど。確かにユイカには見えない。
Father Eri spoke in a gentle but uninvested tone. He was a thorough egoist. Sojiro knew all too well about people who spoke this way. The individual who cared for him when he first came down from the mountain was one of them. Sojiro glanced across at him apathetically. Father Eri seemed unfazed by the lack of direction of the conversation.
少し君と話がしたいのですが、よろしいでしょうか。
Do you know the good word of Jesus Christ, my son? Sojiro responded with a nod. Father Eri replied with an artificial smile.
青子が心配のようですね。
別に律香さんにもそう聞かれましたけど、青崎の心配はしていないんです。
Sojiro stared straight ahead as he answered, his voice sounding uncharacteristically weak and unsure.
けど今はずっと彼女のことが気にかかっている。それがなんだかわからなくて、さっきから考えてる最中です。
I don't think it's love. I really don't. I'm actually like, I don't think it's love. I think it's a deeper form of admiration than that, you know?
簡単ですよ。君は単に
Or that, yeah.
青子に嫉妬しているのです。
That's, yeah. With those few words, Sojiro snapped out of his funk. He clapped his hands, then turned toward the priest.
そっか。俺は単に青崎が羨ましかっただけなんだ。いや、でもそれは困るな。自分の中にそういうところがあるなんて気づきもしなかった。
Father Eri did not respond to his confession-like ramblings.
それで話っていうのは何ですか？
いえ、話というより質問です。
Please, please, I want to see you try and convert him right now.
君は今まで山奥に住んでいたと聞きました。そこで一つ、
Please,
どうしても気になることがあって。
please, something strikes me as curious. You must not have heard the good word of our Lord, right?
気になることですか？
はい。おそらく、今まで誰もあなたにこの手の質問をしなかったのでしょ
We're
う。
dancing around it, please.
それはあなたが他人にその手の不安を感じさせないからです。実際、私もそう思いますし。ですからまあ、これも縁ですし、私も肩書きがこれですしね。迷える子羊がいるんですから、それなりの務めを果たさないと、後ろめたいというか。
Oh my god, is it actually happening? Father Eri looked at Sojiro placidly. His pupils were like black holes that could suck the soul out of your body.
おかしなことが気になるんですね。その質問というのは。
いえ、ごく自然の疑問ですよ。あなたはなぜ山から降りてきたのか。
Oh,
そこでなら、君は幸福だったでしょうに。
I mean, that's a better question to actually get the answer to, but it's way less funny than trying to convert him right here and now. Sojiro was not sure what he had done, but it sounded as though the priest was accusing him of something, which is fair. We really don't know why. Then again, it was a reasonable question, if a little pointless. Sojiro had no answer. Father Eri ignored the solemn boy and continued.
山での生活がいかに厳しいものかは、私も人並みには知っています。
Oh.
若い頃、ちょっとした手違いで遭難したこともありますしね。山での生活はこの上なく簡素です。何しろ生きること以外に時間を割く余裕がない。楽しむために生きるのではなく、生きるためにただ生きる。山での生活に比べれば、都市のあり方は楽園以外の何者でもないでしょう。ですが、楽園の定義は人それぞれです。
Mm-hmm. Sojiro still did not answer. His expression remained blank. The only sound was the priest's voice echoing around the chapel.
一粒の種の誕生すら喜びになる生活。電気の明かりがどれだけ暖かでも、自然のままの厳しい寒さを君は尊んでいたはずです。なのになぜ降りてきたのですか？山にいれば君は幸せだったでしょうに。
Father Eri repeated his question. Sojo's mouth remained firmly shut. Not because he did not want to answer, but because he simply did not know how to. All he knew was that if he wanted to go back, he could not.
困ったものです。そこをはっきりさせないことにはいつまでも救いがない。故郷を捨てた理由もわからないのに、旅先の土地を愛することなんてまっとうな人間にはできませんよ。
Oh. That's powerful. Oh my god. Why did I leave? Oh my god. Okay, not me wiping some tears from my eyes, and I'm trying to think about my own life.
これは忠告ですが、すべてを無条件に肯定したところで幸福になれるとは限りません。
Dang, this is kind of hitting me hard, guys.
あなたはもう少し自分の心を許してあげないと。
Dang, I might actually cry. Sojiro could not make sense of what he was being told. Only the father's last words made any impression on him. Being fair to yourself is easier said than done, of course. And what that entailed, Sojiro was uncertain of.
おお、そういえば。
Toku had mentioned something similar before, and it had impressed him. First her, now this priest. How could people know things he hadn't even told them?
すごいですね。神父さんっていうのはみんなそうなんですか？
Nope, Sojiro said, curious as to where the weight of his shoulders had gone to. In a way, one of his strong points is the fact that his emotional scars do not show on the surface.
ええ、神父は悩みを暴くのが仕事ですから。
Shame about the ones that don't.
ま、大抵は暴くだけで埋めるのに失敗するんですけどね。
お、悩みを暴くって、つまり相談事ですか？
そういうソフトなのも承っています。私が解決できる悩みなどたかが知れているようですけど。
The priest shrugged, looking a little disconcerted. Granted, Sojiro still did not trust Father Eri at all, but at that moment, anyone was a ray of light in his eyes.
じゃあ、たかが知れた程度の悩みを聞いてもらえますか？
君が青子をなぜ羨むかですね。
It was as though the priest could see into the boy's soul with his serene eyes.
まあ、自分でもどうしてそう思うのかがわからない。でもあなたならそれを知ってそうだ。
知りませんけど、まあ無責任に答えましょうか。それはおそらくあなたには根拠がないからですよ。自分の色がないと例えた方が正確ですが。
Is that a play on the fact that Aoko's name is Blue? Sojiro squinted, trying to understand the priest's complicated yet concise answer. I mean, it's also a good answer.
ほら、そこです。君に優れた部分があるとしたら、その順応性です。山という異界から町に降りて、一人で暮らしていけたこと、ようやく慣れた常識の中で、青子たちという非常識と関わっても暮らしていけたこと、そうであると努めているにしても、あなたの順応性は際立っている。原因は知りませんが、君には初めから自我というものが第一に現れてはいないのです。何事にも対応できるものの、種に交わるほど器用でもない。強いて言うのなら、色の乗っていない空白ですかね。
Dang.
風景に溶け込む自然さは素晴らしい人徳ですが、自我がないということは居場所がないということですから、いいことばかりじゃありません。ユイカにまで見えないというのは予想以上でしたが、姿なき精霊すら捉えるあれが見えなかったのですから、君の無欲ぶりも筋金入りだ。
As if amused by something, Father Eri grinned. However, Sojiro understood neither the meaning of his smile nor his words.
憶測に過ぎませんが、青子はあなたを見て反感を覚えたと思いますよ。自分のないあなたは自己を押し通してきた彼女にとって認めがたいものだったでしょうから。
It's the ultimate selfish individual and the ultimate selfless individual, you know?
そして同時に、あなたは青子に自分ではどうしても手に入れられないものを見てしまった。
Because selfless is not necessarily a good thing all the time.
言葉にするとくだらない表現になりますが、そういうことです。先ほどは嫉妬と言いましたが、それは訂正しましょう。君は青子に、いや、いいです。言葉にするのは、それこそ野暮だ。
Father Eri smiled gently. It was a fresh-faced grin that belied his age. Whether it came to Aoko, or whenever it came to Aoko, he seemed to forget his role as a priest. But that was irrelevant to Sojiro.
神父さん、それで結局自分は青子のどこら辺に憧れてるんですか？
Sojiro responded to Father Eri's rambling by being direct. Some would say the priest had been direct himself, but this was Sojiro and he needed things spelled out.
今のでもわからないと。
Look, Sojiro's like, I may be stupid.
参りましたね。こういうことは言葉を尽くすほど実感が湧かないものですが、まあ、私も神父と呼ばれる身です。少し切り口を変えて代弁してみましょう。
Alright, people pointed this out. One, yes, that is a correct term. And two, cottoned is in fact a term, but it's British, so it's not real.
あなたは青子の過去を知っていますか？
詳しくは知りません。高校デビューとかおかしな言葉を口にしてましたけど。
全く知らないということですね。いいでしょう。ではしずきくん、虐待のない例え話ですが、君は突然自殺しろと言われて従えますか？
Let's not bring this up right now.
自殺ですか？
そう、自殺です。
Sorry,
神
just
父である私が口にしていいことではありませんが、まあ、
those
私は格好だけなのでいいでしょう。
those first three words and the fact that a priest is saying it just kind of hit me, you know? That's pretty funny in a bad way. Yeah.
青子はね、近いことを求められたのです。
Dang.
15歳の時に。
And the funny thing is, like, now with the advent of the internet, 15-year-olds are told that all the time, every single day.
彼女がそれまで積み重ねてきた努力も希望も過去も未来もすべて
Oh, you don't mean...
今日からお前は違う生き物として生きろ。
You don't mean, like, actually kill your... You mean, like, to completely kill your old sense of self. Those are two different things, but... And again, they're also kind of not.
どうです？それは自己の抹消。未来の死と同じだと思いませんか？
I mean, he technically ended... I gotta be careful with my words. He, you know, Sojiro technically ended his old life and was reborn here, right? Oh. Is it the fact that Aoko struggled to reinvent herself? Right? At 15, being told you have to completely change who you are 100% to have a new life, right? Effectively, again, killing the self. Whereas Sojiro had to do the same too, but he was able to adapt so much faster, right? And she resents that. Oh. His words fit what Aoko had said about her past. Until middle school, she led a normal life. Then out of the blue, she became the family heiress in place of her sister. Becoming a magician meant casting aside the life she had known. She had to leave behind her ambitions and prospects and live the life of a mage, something she barely knew anything about. Her life up to that point had taught her that everything from then on would bring her misery. Ako's grandfather was not the forceful type. Her sister has failed. Now it's your turn, he'd said. Did Aoko resist? Sojiro could not begin to imagine. All he knew was that she could not be happy with the hand she was dealt. Even if the life of a magician was attractive, to believe the possibility that Aoko could give up her lifestyle up to that point was to not know her at all. Aoko Ozaki put her all into everything. She'd probably achieved a lot in those 15 years. Her achievements and prospects were no doubt enough to make anyone jealous. But did she have the conviction did she have the conviction to give those away and go back to square one? And square one did not come close to the reality of it. The future she had envisioned for so long would have been obliterated.
青子はどうしたんですか？
いやー、これがもう全くの頑固者でして、立ち会った私でさえどうかと思うぐらい簡単にうなずきました。震える指を懸命に握り込んで、やってやろうじゃないと見栄を切ってね。彼女は祖父の期待や青崎の責任感からではなく、逃げることを嫌って魔術師の道を取ったんですよ。拒むことは逃げではないのでしょうが、青子にはそう思えたんでしょう。逃避という行為はこれまでの自分の時間を否定することになると、今までの自分を嘘にしてしまうのなら、今までの生活に別れを告げることを青子は選んだのです。まあ極端ではありますが、あれは前に進むためなら全てを捨てられる人間なんです。
An affectionate smile crossed Father Erie's face. Rather than signaling his closeness to Aoko, it conveyed the pride of a guardian.
ですが、私も思い違いをしていました。結局はそうなるように、青子は育てられていたのです。彼女の祖父は、瞳子が家を出ることも、青子が跡継ぎを了解することも読んだ上で、あの二人を育ててきた。
So not a direct 180 for her life.
形だけですが、私も神父としてさすがにそれはどうかと思いましてね。柄にもなく青子を説得したものです。祖父の思い通りになることはありません。なんなら私とメキシコあたりに逃げませんかと。
That's a loaded sentence. There's a lot to that. One, the fleeing with the priest, okay, but why to Mexico?
しかしまあ、躊躇なく振られました。その時の彼女の返答は、今でも一言一句覚えています。
Oh God, please, Aoko, don't say something racist.
だって、私一人がどんなに泣き叫んでも、今の状況は変わらないんでしょ？私にしかできないなら、正面から受けて立つ。たとえ不本意で、突然投げ込まれた川の中でだって。逃げるなんてのは最後の最後。それまではせいぜい華麗に踊ってやるわ。
Oh, that's strong. That's strong. I was really worried she'd be like, I'm not going somewhere where they eat tacos. Disgusting, or something much worse that I'm not going to say out loud. The priest recited her words as if recalling lines from a favorite play. That is some strong lines. The hear me roar is so good. It certainly seemed like something she would say. The last thing Aoko said in the room she was recovering in probably meant the same. Of course, when an audience is watching, you want their approval. However, approval must come from within first. Aoko worked to feel proud of herself before worrying about how others viewed her. She at least wanted to do her job with grace. In response to everything she had lost, she would hang in there, even if it meant going it alone. As for why Sojiro envied her, well, that was obvious. To Sojiro, she lived her life with her head held high. He was a boy who accepted everything, but had nothing. She was a girl who threw it all away, but never lost a thing. He stood in the meeting room alone, seeing the ugliness within and the sublime outside. Looking back, he finally realized what was eating at him.
もういいでしょう。君は青子の容姿に感じ入ったのではなく、青崎青子という生き方に感じ入ったのです。ま、青子は青子で、れっきとした美人ですが。
Sojiro nodded. From the day he first met her, that was indeed how he felt. It just took him till now to realize it. The strength in her eyes and her unwavering will had captured his heart.
なんかすごい汗我慢だ。
本当に小娘のくせにギネス級の頑固さです。
Father Erie spoke from the heart. Sojiro raised his head, gave a small grin, and scratched his cheek. So many hours wasted brooding like an idiot. A part of him still felt strange, but it didn't bother him to leave the question unsolved for now. Unable to stay still, he stood up. He couldn't care less about the Ozaki family, mage battles, or Aoko rushing off to her death. Right now, he just wanted to see her face. I swear, he's gonna go in and she's gonna be
お待ち
gone.
なさい。病室は立ち入り禁止です。
She's gonna be gone. The cold words echoed around the chapel. They reached Sojiro as he was about to head back to Aoko. The sightless sister must have been waiting by the altar. She moved quickly to block his path.
ゆいかさん、今病室には入れないんですか？
はい。しばらく人よけをしてほしいと、クオンジ様からことづかっています。
They both absolutely went to fight.
アリスが。
Sojiro was suspicious of why Alice would have said that. He could understand being kept out if Aoko was being treated or her condition has worsened, but this seemed different. Besides, Aoko herself said that her treatment had finished.
人がいいのですね、シスターユイカは。そんな方便をしなくてもいいんですよ。はっきり言ってあげればいい。今から病室に行っても無駄です。
Yep.
と、青子はとっくに出発しているんですから。
Yep.
エイリ神父。
The priest began to explain everything from the pew he still sat in. About the things he and Sojiro had spoken about, and why he, a stranger, would be so concerned about a person he knew nothing about. It all became clear to Sojiro.
初めからそのつもりだったんですね。
Sojiro's voice was full of anger, but Father Erie did not flinch.
申し訳ありません。青子にあなたの保護を頼まれたもので。彼女の準備が整うまでの時間稼ぎでしたが。
Yeah.
私があなたと話をしたかったの。
No, I mean, on the one hand, it absolutely did buy her time to prepare to leave. But on the other hand, I do feel like he was speaking from a place of genuine wanting to talk to him. The priest's attempt to smooth things over was far from sincere. I don't know, I feel like there is a bit of it. Sojiro grit his teeth to control his rage. Why had they not stopped Aoko and Alice from heading towards certain death? Because both the nun and the priest were of the same ilk as the mages. As such, they understood Aoko's decision, and the priest understood Aoko too. Even if he did have the power to stop her, he would not have. The Aoko Ozaki he knew was not about to hide away in a church and lick her wounds.
アリスは。
青子と行きましたよ。あれから30分は過ぎていますね。
Father Erie went even so far as to divulge the time. 30 minutes ago, the same time the priest reared his head. It would not take even half that long to go to the school from here. And then another 10 minutes or less to get to Misaki High's old school building from there. Sojiro turned to the entrance of the chapel. However,
待ちなさい。どこへ行くつもりですか？
the sound of her voice stopped him in his tracks. Whoa. Whoa, film grain. An unseen pressure had locked him in place. Her admonition seemed to carry a spellbinding power, stopping the foolhardy boy where he stood. That, or we're gonna get the surprise that she is mystic eyes, but no, if he's not facing the right way, she
あな
couldn't.
たは魔術師同士の争いを知りません。
Wait. Are we gonna look down and see that there is a black key binding his shadow in place?
何の助力にもならないばかりか。
Please.
彼女たちの足かせになるだけで
Please
す。
tell me we get that cool thing.
彼女たちが命を落とすのは彼女たちの業によるもの。望むままに傷つけ合えばいいでしょう。あなたのような何の咎もない若者が教示に立ち会うことはありません。
She spoke with quiet anger. Her contempt was not directed at Aoko or Alice, though, but Sojiro for being so eager to waste his life.
何かしら希望があるのなら私も止めはしません。ですがこの件は別です。あなたが言っても彼女たちが助かることはありません。
She was right. It would be pointless of him to go. At the amusement park, he had been useless in the end. Now they faced something even worse. He couldn't even imagine how he might contribute this time.
言っておきますが、青崎青子は祖父に護身術を教え込まれています。魔術以外でもあなたより腕は立つ。その彼女も あの使い魔が相手では勝負にならない。
Sojo's physical strength, his only edge, meant nothing. If he went now, he would only get in their way. Yuka was correct. And yet,
でも行かないと。青子には返さなくちゃいけない借りがあります。
God, look at that resolve. He spoke calmly, but firmly. Though almost moved, the sister frowned slightly. She felt bad for him, but her warning was for his own good. If he would not listen to reason, then she would have to make him sleep. She raised a finger of binding at
そ
Sojiro.
れを言うなら返したい借りがある。それとシスターユイカ、教会内での魔術は控えてくださいね。
Oh.
使うのなら筆跡に留めてもらわないと私の査定に響きます。
Alright, that's a bit strange. You're telling me that during church there's magic going on? Okay.
まったくおとなしそうに見えて律香君より短気なんですから、あなたは。
エイリ神父、しかし
行かせてあげればいいじゃないですか。それともあなたはやはり青子たちに退場してほしいと？
その問題と彼の献身は別の話です。改めなさい、しずきさん。あなたが言っても何もできはしないのですから。
The truth of the statement cut Sojiro deep. But despite everything that was being said, his mind was made up. It always had been. Even if he was not certain, he would at least not hesitate. He had always followed his instincts to the end, no matter where they took him.
分かっています。でも行かないと。ここにいたら本当に何もできない。
His heart burned in his chest. While he listened to the priest talk, he could only think of seeing Aoko. He was not worried. He did not want to help. He just wanted to see her. He would figure out what came next once he got there.
ほら、献身なんて考え自体が間違ってるんです。足を引っ張ると言いますが、どの道青子たちに勝ち目はないんでしょ？なら彼がマイナスになってもいいじゃないですか。どうせ破産するなら豪快に破産すれば。
Kind of a terrible thing for a priest to say. Horrible, but he is a name
神
only.
父、
ほら宗十郎君、言って言って。シスター、今のあなたの返事で心が折れましたから。足動くでしょ？
As soon as the priest pointed at Sojiro, he could move again. The pressure weighing on his shoulders lifted along with the fear in his heart. Could he help? Would he expose Aoko and Alice to more danger? All such doubts had vanished.
行きます。縁が残っていればまた。
はい。なんであれ、後悔のない一日を。
I like to believe she literally did the binding with the black key, but he didn't perceive it because he doesn't know what they are, right? He doesn't know if that's not a normal thing at the like. So it's just that, right? With that, Sojiro began to run as Father Iri watched with a look of satisfaction. The priest knew if he could not persuade Aoko, he could not convince Sojiro either. He watched the impetuous boy run away, as the blind nun listened to his footsteps fade into the distance. Yuika was different from Sojiro and the priest. While she showed no mercy to corruption or self-righteousness, she embraced benevolence to the innocent. Such an ordinary boy with his life ahead of him, and yet he chose to follow heretics into hell.
最悪ですね、エイリ神父。分別のつかない子供を導くのが責任のある大人だと思いましたが。
She made no effort to hide her biting disapproval. It was simply her way of showing concern for the boy. Mother Erie shrugged.
だからいろいろと間違えていますよ、シスターユイカ。責任のある大人なんて言葉自体がおかしい。何が起きても責任を取る。それが正しい大人というものです。
And the rest went unspoken. It didn't matter to him which of them died. With a warm, goodly smile, the priest corrected the nun's misunderstanding. Oh my god, that was such a good chapter. That was a really good chapter, and a really good point to end. Bruh. Also, it's the flower field. We're here. So, again, I really appreciate how this game uses the church. It is the most pragmatic and nuanced view of organized religion I've ever seen. It truly comes from a place that doesn't feel fictitious, but closer to real world experiences I've personally had, right? That's really cool. Anyways, guys, this was really good. Thank you all for watching. We'll be back next time for Witch on the Holy Night 2. We'll see you then for that. Ciao.